The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earth Speaking Podcast coming to you January 26th, 2023. It's for many, like myself, a very somber day because today is the 3-year anniversary of the passing of the great one, Kobe Bean Bryant. Passed away tragically on this day 3 years ago. And it's one of those moments where you knew where you were. You knew where you were when these things happen, when something like this happens. You know, whether it's if you're older than myself, if you remember where JFK was shot and assassinated in the 60s, you know, a lot of generations older than me will reflect on things like that nature. You know where you were when 9/11 happened. You knew where you were when, the war started, or when something, in my case, I know where I was when Michael Jackson passed away. You know, I knew where I was when Whitney Houston passed away, when Prince passed away in 2016. I knew where I was at. All these moments. I knew where I was. I remembered everything that played out that entire day 3 years ago. Kobe Bryant, Hall of Famer, one of the greatest players that ever played this game of basketball, the game I love so much, the game that, you know, we talk sports on this podcast. And I tell you, you know, basketball's still my love. Well, all the sports, all the leagues I follow, NFL, NHL, MLB, it doesn't matter. The NBA is always like first and foremost for me. So when we got the news 3 years ago that Kobe Bryant was tragically killed in a helicopter accident alongside his daughter, Gianna, and 7 other passengers, we got respect here as well, too. And we're going to do that in this show. Passed away tragically in that helicopter in Calabasas, California. It's sad. It's very sad. The story's tragic. I remember where I was. I think I said on the podcast that early in the week with Jordan Bruce Green. By the way, we are doing a lot of shows this week. It's weird. We had a lot of time to, not this time, but we also had I had booked a couple, interviews this week. Forgetting that I had to do all this week, and some of them kind of time sensitive too, also in the process. But I remember where I was, and I'll say it again. I was at a Target on a Sunday afternoon, to my kids, my youngest. At the time, my son Eli was, I believe, at the time he was 7, and my youngest one, Logan, was 3. And took him to Target to do a little bit of shopping. Then I got my kids some pizza at the Pizza Hut, Pizza Hut next to in there, and we left. And as I'm walk to my car, my kids about to go back home, I get a text from my sister in a group chat. It's a family group chat we have. And it's a link with some breaking news that Kobe Bryant was involved in a helicopter crash. By the time, the details were still very much not concise with who he was with. It was him. If he was alone, was with the family and all that. There's no confirmation of whether or not he actually died or not. We just heard rumors that he might have been involved in a helicopter crash. And I remember being so stunned. And I remember not even leaving the parking spot. Not leaving the parking spot for about 10 minutes. Someone, and I explained this on the podcast I did with George Bruce Green earlier in the week. I sent him a text. All my friends are Laker fans. So my friends Ron a text. I sent my friend Frank a text. My friends Jabari Davis. All the people I know who are involved in who are either Laker fans or friends of basketball, whatever it may be, send them all texts telling them, do you know anything what's going on here? Is this true? So my friends in media, is this true? Because then you go on Twitter and you start seeing things on Twitter also, not confirmed, but at the same time you're on Twitter and you're like, what the hell's going on here? Drive home with my kids, 10-minute drive away from my house, probably less. I'm a safe driver, so I don't drive that fast. My kids hate that. My kids hate that I drive slow. It's like, they make fun of me all the time. They say my wife is by far the best driver in the house because A, she drives faster than Daddy. But yet Daddy is actually the one that's safer to drive with because I'm always careful. So I don't have any tickets in my life. I have one ticket my entire life for driving, I think, actually. That's because I ran a red light. That's it. Not because of speeding. That's still a story for another day. Back to Kobe. And, I get back home, and then we see, maybe about a few minutes later, TMZ confirm it, that he had passed. But again, he passes, and they're saying at the time that it was him and his entire family might have been involved in the accident, the crash. Then we find out it's him and his daughter Gianna, and then 7 other people, as involved in that crash in Calabasas. Sad day. I remember I put on NBA TV after it, and just watching the footage, the coverage, and they did a fantastic job. Because one thing with the NBA community, I will say, and in doing a little bit of media through the years, and being involved in some NBA media, years back. The one thing with NBA, one thing about the NBA media, I will say for the most part, I'm not saying it's 100% this way, but they do know how to galvanize and get together, and they do have a really good job of unity, that kind of stuff. And I remember just folks, because it was a very sad day, and people, obviously Kobe Bryant, say what you want about whether you love or hate him, because he was a very polarizing figure in the NBA for many years, but he's still infected. He's still affected, should I say. Affected. And to me, it didn't hit me. It hit me, obviously, talking to people about Kobe and his greatness. I'm someone that, when Kobe came in the league, I was not necessarily a huge fan, because while I was not the biggest Michael Jordan fan on the planet, I also recognized Michael Jordan back as a teenager as the greatest of all time. And to me, anyone that challenged that, to me, was just ludicrous. And Kobe Bryant, through attitude and confidence, which, we appreciate later on in life because he was that damn good. Again, me being a very immature 17, 18-year-old, watching an NBA All-Star game in 1998, his first, when he was starting that game, and watching Jordan cook him, if you will. I remember I used to rewind, parts of that game where he would cook Kobe in the post and saying, Kobe, you ain't ready for this, man. You ain't ready for the smoke. Of course, I wasn't saying ready for the smoke back then. That wasn't a thing in 1998. And then going through the years, not really, whatever, being pro Shaq and the Shaq Kobe thing, because Shaq was the guy that had really proven to be the bigger talent and whatnot, and he'd been there for a couple of years, been to finals already with Orlando. And it was Shaq's team. Kobe was 2. Kobe was Pippen. Shaq was Jordan. It wasn't until Colorado that I started to change. And it wasn't because I believe or didn't believe the accusations in Colorado. Of course, not really appropriate here, because obviously, things are, in that case is a lot more complicated than people get credit for. But it wasn't until then that I started to see Kobe for who he was, and he became it was that point where he became the Mamba, became people are gonna hate me, so whatever. Because Kobe Bryant, to me, pre-Colorado, always came off as very unauthentic. Like, he was very, almost robotic in a sense, too. Even though he was trying to be like Jordan, he was a bit robotic, too, in the process, too. And I didn't like that. And then post-Colorado, to me, he changed. Became the Mamba. Became like, he embraced the hate. He's always said that he preferred playing on the road than at home because he loved when the road team's fans booed him because it gave more energy. He loved that. He'd rather win championships on the road than at home because he wanted to be public enemy number one. I can relate to that to some degree. And to me, at that point, I became a huge fan. Huge fan. Rooted for him in both finals against Orlando and well, actually three finals he played in after that, after the Kobe Shaq years, losing to Boston. Of course, I can't stand the Celtics, so I don't care. But rooting for him in the Boston series, rooting for him in the Orlando series, rooting for him in the Boston rematch in 2010. Him getting his 5 rings. I'm actually happy that he passed Shaq at that point. Because I got grown tired of Shaq at that point. As you guys know, my love-hate with Shaquille O'Neal. Although I'm on the love side these days, though. But the thing I think where I believe we're most robbed of Kobe Bryant right now. We played almost 20 years in the league. I think they played 20 years in the league, actually. I think about that. I was so fascinated by Kobe Bryant's life story. Probably more than any superstar in the league. His on-again, off-again marriage, which, thankfully they stayed married up until his passing. Even though they had a lot of issues there, and Vanessa had every reason to leave him. His relationship with Shaq, relationship with Phil Jackson, his relationship with his father. Kobe Bryant, to me, had a lot of things that fascinated me about him in a way that not even Michael Jordan did. Hell, not even the way LeBron James did in stretches. And then to see the man he becomes up into retirement. He retires on his own terms. And then he goes, embraces another career, writing and wanting to produce stuff and winning an Oscar, for the Dear Basketball project he did. And I was so fascinated about Kobe Bryant's post-career. I think we were robbed of something there, too, with him, his post-career. Again, to me, we look at deaths that affected me that's outside my family and friends. Obviously MJ is number one at Bullet. It ain't close. We know that. But that was not surprising that he passed away in 2009. And as I told you guys on the show many times, I've heard things for weeks leading up to the day he died that he was not in the best health. But Kobe had a lot more to give. Kobe was healthy. He didn't die because of illness. He didn't die because of none of that stuff. He died because he was in an accident, a tragic accident. And so that was easily probably number 2 for me in terms of celebrity-ish deaths that really hit me in the in the feels, if you will. You look at Whitney Houston, look at Prince. Chris Cornell was a big one for me. But we were robbed of that guy's greatness. And to me, that day was weird because it really hit me when I was watching the games, that preceded that same day, and seeing the young players who were probably under 30, maybe under 25, and seeing the impact, them crying, tears in their eyes, and seeing the impact of Kobe Bryant. That's when it really hit me. It's like, yeah, Kobe Bryant is a generational player. He might have been Jordan. I mean, I'm having my top 5 on my all-time list in terms of best players of all time. But that's not a debate for another day, of course. But he was impactful. And we miss him today. He's a voice, I believe, in this polarized world especially, that would be impactful to us. And we are robbed of that. So again, salute Kobe Bryant, his family, Vanessa, and the girls. Hope they're doing okay. Obviously, they live with this every day. We can move on, and every year we'll come and celebrate. But that family, the Bryant family, has to deal with that every day still. And I hope they're still at peace. I hope they're, if not at peace, but at least in a place where they can at least collect themselves into, just acceptance, I guess you want to call it. So, again, salute to Kobe Bryant. One of the greatest all play game 3 years later. I find, yeah, I feel like what I'm saying now on the show today, probably a little more harder to talk about than it was, when I did the podcast, Emergency podcast back in 2020, on Kobe. But anyway, it is championship weekend, championship Sunday coming up in the NFL, the Final Four of the NFL, AFC, Bengals, Chiefs, NFC, Eagles, Niners. You want my prediction? I'm going to give my prediction. That's the spread. The first game, 3 o'clock, AFC title game on Fox. The Niners heading to Philadelphia face the Eagles. The spread as of this recording is Eagles remain a 2.5-point favorite. The over-under is San Francisco. Over-under is 46.5. That's San Francisco. That's crazy. So I was on the Hold Up podcast a couple days ago, and I said, at the time we recorded that, which is on Tuesday night at 9:30 when we did this portion of the show, and I said that if you ask me right now, Philadelphia is going to win this game. If you ask me on Thursday, which is today, by the way, I'm probably going to go San Francisco. If you ask me at kickoff at 2:59 before kickoff on Sunday, I'm going to go the other way again. I got to be honest with you, though. It's been 2 days since that show, and I still think Philadelphia. I'm still in Philadelphia in this game. Now, I entered this playoff saying that San Francisco would go to the Super Bowl, would be my NFC pick to go to the Super Bowl. And I'm not saying they won't get there, or would have a chance to get there, of course. But this is a week-to-week league. Injuries change things. Performances change things. Entering the playoffs, we didn't know how healthy Jalen Hurts was, which is why I thought that Giants game could have been a little bit more competitive if it wasn't healthy. But Jalen Hurts looked sharp last week against New York. And yes, I get it. It's the Giants. I'm totally with you on that one. But at the same time, opponent matters. Dallas was a better opponent for San Francisco than the Giants were for the Eagles, and that's not even close. Right now, the best bet in this game, for me, is taking the under on this game. I'm leaning Eagles right now, but I wouldn't bet it. This game is these two teams are way too similar. I would say the one advantage Philly does have, probably more than San Francisco, is the quarterback position. That's not a knock on Brock Purdy. It's just Jalen Hurts is the better quarterback. Let's be real here. And is this the week Brock Purdy gets caught? That's the question. So right now I'm leaning Eagles. Check me on Sunday. I might do a Mercy podcast Sunday morning and say, I changed my mind. It's going to be Niners. Don't know. But right now I'm leaning Eagles right now. All right, the AFC side at 6:30 on CBS or Paramount. Bengals heading to Kansas City to face the Chiefs. It is a pick'em right now. This thing is going all over the place. Like, it opened up at Chiefs -2. They went to Bengals -1, 1.5. Now it's pick'em again. Of course, that's the ankle. Patrick Mahomes' ankle. I'm going to tell you right now, this game I feel a lot more comfortable picking with the one side. I'm picking the Bengals win this game outright for starters. And I don't think it matters if Mahomes... Okay, look, let me rephrase that. Mahomes being healthy does matter. I still think the Bengals win this game even if Mahomes was healthy. Even if the ankle was an issue. I still pick the Bengals in this game. Also, the under as well on this game, 47.5. And the conversation about, quarterbacks. If Burrow wins this game, that's 4-0 in the last 2 years against the Chiefs. Is he the best quarterback in the league? I mean, it's a weird conversation to have because I've heard comparisons this week on various sports shows about who's the best quarterback in the league. And people defending that Joe Burrow is. But they'll put Mahomes number 1 still on the list. And it makes sense. Because what Joe Burrow does is something that every quarterback in this league could do, physically speaking, but yet he does it better than anybody else. He's the best natural quarterback at the basics in the league. However, Pat Mahomes is special. He's an alien. The things Pat Mahomes does, no one can do. And that's what makes it special. So it makes sense when Dan Orlovsky and other media out there says that Burrow is the best pure quarterback in the league. It makes sense because he really is. He does all the basics correct and right. I don't know if I still put him ahead of Mahomes on my tier, my list, just because the fact that Mahomes has already won a Super Bowl. This is now his 5th straight AFC title game. But I will say Burrow will narrow the gap there. I certainly do think that Burrow will certainly pass Josh Allen if we're going to go that far. I'll roll with you there. So, but I the Bengals here. The Bengals are the better team. They're the more well-rounded team. And the big thing here too, and if you look at the previous 3 games in the last 2 years, the Chiefs secondary has no answers for that Bengals receiving core of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and others. They're virtually unguardable and they're deep. Pick your poison. As long as the Bengals offensive line holds up like it did last week as Buffalo, be fine. And Buffalo's one of the hardest places to play in the league. And Bengals won that running away 27-10 and left points on the board. Just saying. So, give me the Bengals to win this game. I am predicting right now an Eagles-Bengals Super Bowl. Could be wrong. I'm rooting for the Niners win the game because I can't imagine the some of the Eagles in there. That's personally speaking. I love Jalen Hurts, man. I love Jalen Hurts. So, that's my prediction for the for Super Bowl Sunday, for Championship Sunday rather in the NFL. All right. So I was listening to a podcast recently. I love the Minimalist podcast. Love it. And there was a clip they put out on YouTube because a lot of these things I just do on clips anyway. For my daily consumption of media, I've been telling you guys that's what I do these days. And there was a clip where one of the guys was talking about how vacations are actually overrated. Now, it doesn't mean that vacations aren't good and you shouldn't go on them and shouldn't do them. But people also, overrate vacations. And it's funny when he said that, I'm thinking to myself, well, there was a time I actually did agree with that, actually. And I probably still do to an extent. Because vacations are basically going to places or basically getting away from your natural world, your normal world. And I get that. And again, I'm not anti-vacation. I love it. I love going on vacation. But you ever notice when you go on vacation, say you go for a week, go away for a week, away from the house, and then by halfway or close to the end of the trip, you're like itching to get home, itching to get back to your normal abode, if you will. Because that's me a lot. In fact, I would, in the past, do a vacation and then book my return to leave a few days between returning and then go back to work because I wanted to settle in my house and enjoy my house. I think we overrate vacations to some extent because if you enjoy your actual life, what you're doing, your regular surroundings, you wouldn't want or need a vacation. Now, I'm not saying not take off work, and you can still take off work and stay home. I'll be honest with you. Some of my best vacations I've ever had, especially with my wife, has been when we stayed home. One of my favorite vacations I ever did was about maybe 12 years ago. I think it was 12 years ago when we stayed home for an entire week. We didn't go anywhere, and we just locked it. This is also pre-kids. We were, I think we weren't even married yet, I think, at the time. I think we were about to get married. We were still engaged. And we stayed home the entire week and watched Entourage, HBO's Entourage, the entire week. We had never watched the show before at that time. So we binged the entire season, the entire series at that point, which was 8 seasons, and binged it the entire week. And all we did was stay home. We order pizza, watch TV, order pizza or whatever, Chinese food. And we just kind of like shut the world out. It was just me and her. And remember, it's just pre-kids, so we were able to do that at the time. And that, to me, was so much fun. We'll go out to breakfast, whatever, enjoy ourselves, come back home, binge Entourage again. And we actually watched the entire series pretty much up to where there was at that point. And we're able to finish in time before we went back to our normal work life. I love going on vacation. I'm not saying don't not go on vacation. I love it. But I do think there are people who overrate it to some extent. Because if you design your life the way you want or the way you like it to yourself, and this is why I love minimalism too, because when you take away all the clutter, all the extra stuff that you might think you need but you don't really need, and simplify your life, honestly, you appreciate more. You appreciate the less. Because there's only 24 hours in a day. And 8 of those need to sleep. The other 8 need to work. So much things you really need. So if you design your life the way you want to and to make you happy, vacations may not be something you have to require every time to get away to be happy. Now, again, I'm not saying vacations aren't cool and going away aren't cool. You still do those things. But don't make it to where I'm only happy if I go away. You can still do those things, but if you design your life the way you should, obviously, I think you can have a nice balance and appreciate life abroad, vacations and staycations as a whole. So that's what I was listening to on that podcast, and I really enjoyed that, and I actually agree with it. And it's actually something I've never admitted, but I also in the back of my head said, yeah, I've had those same thoughts in the past before too. Also, I recently, after about a year and a half, resubscribed to my Audible app. So Audible is audiobooks, of course, and I did it because, first off, I'm actually about to start reading Stephen A. Smith's memoirs. He just came out with his book last week, and I'm looking forward to reading it. And the fact that he actually narrated it makes it even better. So I said, again, the actual book, I'm going to get the audiobook instead too. Audible is really cool because depending if you love to read, of course. So if you subscribe to Audible, you get 1 credit a month. Okay? 1 credit a month, which is like $16 a month. And you can sometimes pop the credits up. If you let's say you let it run and you let the $60 hit your account every month, you can pile up credits. So let's say you open the account and you don't get a book for 3 months. Now you got 3 credits, which means you use those credits for 3 books. So what I did was I didn't want to get the book outright because I know the book was more money outright supposed to get in the credit. So what I did is I reopened the account, got the book with the credit, and what I'm going to do now, because I know I'm not going to read like this book and probably not going to finish it within a month, because I don't think I am, I'm going to shut down the account again until I'm ready to use it again. So I'm going to start the book probably this weekend, finally, and so I'll review the book on the podcast when I'm done with it. But I'm kind of glad. I still have other books that I've ordered on Audible through the years that I haven't finished yet. I don't know, there's a Bill Belichick book I want to read on there. There's a couple other books I wanted to read on there as well. But once I do that, once I clear through those books, again, I love content. I watch content, I read content. There's content on the Audible side that I need to clear out first before I reopen the account again. So once I do that, I will clear it out. I'll probably reopen it again to get another book. So that's where I'm at. So I'm looking forward to reading that book this weekend. Last thing before I go. Donald Trump is back on Facebook /Meta. And of course, Trump supporters love it because he's back. Yeah, our hero's back. People on the left pissed off because they should be gone. Let me tell you something right now. And I said this 2 years ago when the January 6th thing happened. I was actually not in favor of Donald Trump losing his Twitter account. I was not. Because I still felt like we needed to have that, have that voice in terms of knowing what he's saying. He's a leader of the free world. we need to know what he's saying to hold him accountable for things. Okay? Once you shut it out and he's in secret, not so cool. I understood why Twitter did it. I understood why they did it, because they thought he was a threat and thought that what he was saying was dangerous to the overall specter of a country. And I get that. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it wholeheartedly, but I understand why they did it. And of course, them being a private company, they do what they want. I get that. And so I support, free speech and all that. You get what I'm saying. So, Trump is now back on Facebook. And I'll be honest with you. If you're a Trump supporter, this is a bad thing. Let me tell you why. I said this last year to the podcast, and I don't think people understood what I was saying. Sometimes Donald Trump, whether you love him or hate him, puts his foot in his mouth. Even if he's well-intentioned on things. He puts his foot in his mouth all the fucking time. All the fucking time. Okay? And when Joe Biden took over as president, and people started becoming very negative towards Joe Biden, you start hearing about people saying, "Oh, maybe Trump's not as bad as he used to be," whatever. It made sense because Trump's volume was turned so low that people started to question whether or not that was let's say you vote for Trump in 2016 and then you went all the way in 2020. Trump being quiet, in some ways, made him a martyr, number one, in my opinion. But also him being quiet is less fuck-ups there, less gaffes, if you will. Donald Trump being on social media is a wide open door for him to say the wrong thing, to alienate people. So if you're a Democrat, and I know you're mad about, oh, Trump's back on Twitter, and no. If you're looking from a political perspective, if Trump's on Twitter and you're a liberal or just don't like Trump at all and don't want to win the election in 2024, because he has declared, guys, remember, he has declared, then you want him on Twitter. Because by him being on Twitter, he'll fuck up. Because that's what he does. He says the wrong thing. He talks too much. His mouth is... Even Trump... And the thing is, what I'm saying here, even Trump supporters says this too. They all say this, that, oh, I love the guy, but he can't keep his mouth shut. So you think you're going to alienate? You're going to alienate the middle. So Trump being on... Politically speaking, for the right, if you love Trump, him being back on Facebook, if he chooses to speak on there, it's bad for you guys. I think it's bad. I think it's bad for the right. It's good for the left. Because Trump, given his history, even before he was in the political sphere, can't keep his fucking mouth shut. He just can't. He can't. So, if I'm Donald Trump, I would stay quiet, stay clear. For the record, he declared he was running for president back in November of last year. And I'll be honest, there's been no energy. No one really cares. That's the vibe I get. That, and maybe it's just too early because we're way before caucus season. Maybe we get closer to the end of the year into the caucuses next year. Maybe we'll see more energy. But thus far, he declared he's running for president, and there's really been no excitement whatsoever on that side of the aisle. In fact, he's alienated a lot of people on the side too, including evangelical leaders, for some of the comments he's been saying recently. Because again, he can't keep his fucking mouth shut. Come on now. Anyway, that's the podcast today. Dated January 26, 2023. Again, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. We love you, man. 3 years. Stay resting. You and your beautiful daughter, Gianna. And, of course, the 7 passengers on the helicopter from 3 years ago. And other than that, we'll talk soon. Later. Thank you.